Good evening, this is my data protocol for Module 17 AEP 858, and I began by thinking about how my teachers and staff would respond to receiving a data protocol. I think that they would appreciate having that guidance because, as we discussed in this class, data can be overwhelming. Oftentimes, as a teacher at a staff meeting, I have data just thrown at my table, and then they start asking questions about it before I've even had a chance to look at it, which really is very frustrating and annoying. The textbook talked about how data analysis should be very logical, and that we first need to think about what we want to know and why, and then to gather the data that we have or that we need, analyze the data to answer the questions that will lead to an understanding, and then what do we need to do to get different results, or how will we integrate this data. And so those were the questions that I focused on for my data protocol. And I began with the question of what do we want to know and why. So this is where the data leader would introduce the information, explain the reason the data was collected. That way teachers can start, or staff can start thinking about the data and why is it important. They would ask others to share why the information is relevant, if there are others that have collected the data, and then explain the importance. So that would be the first step, is just basically introducing the data. Then the next question, what is the data telling us? So this is where those at the meeting would individually look at the data and take notes over their observations, kind of like a close read. What did you notice? These are things that you should be asking yourself as you have time with the data, and I would encourage my staff to take notes on their paper. What surprised you? These are some questions, again, that they need to be asking themselves as they look at the data. And then depending upon how much time or how much data there is, this might take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. And then I would have them discuss their notes in small groups first, and then we would share out key observations with the whole group and have the staff make suggestions for improvement based upon what they discussed. The next step, what data do we still need? And so I would have a recorder from each group taking notes in a second round of discussion addressing this question. And then if a follow-up meeting is needed with more data collected, I would adjourn until that time, because there's nothing more frustrating than not having the data that you need to really analyze a question. And if we have everything that we need, and once the data has been collected that we actually need, then it would be time to discuss how we would implement those changes. And so team leaders at that point would have to decide, after the brainstorming has taken place, which ideas to implement, and then to disseminate that information to the teachers or the teams, and then begin collecting new data on the changes and schedule time for follow-up. Thank you, and this concludes my data protocol.